Hello, welcome to another edition of Cooking with the Professor. I'm Professor M. Get a little help from Leo from time to time. He adds some corrections, make sure I'm doing everything the right way. He'll let you know. We're coming up on a day where people celebrate romance and love, and a lot of times with chocolate. Even if you're not celebrating Valentine's Day soon, you might still like a good chocolate dessert. One of the classic chocolate desserts is chocolate mousse, or as it's sometimes called, pot de creme au chocolat. And that's what I'm going to be making tonight. I'm going to also make some chocolate dipped strawberries. The pot de creme I will make tonight. That goes in the refrigerator overnight. The chocolate dipped strawberries I'll make tomorrow. Having a good repertoire of desserts that can be made a day in advance is a good way to entertain without having to do everything last minute. Now to make the chocolate mousse, I'm using chocolate, of course. There's going to be 2 cups of half and half. This is going to get heated while I'm doing the rest of the work. You want to heat that over medium heat, not letting it boil. So keep an eye on it while you're doing the rest of the work. I have sort of a double boiler here. Now if you don't have one that's specifically a double boiler, you can set one up in a lot of ways. Large pot with a slightly smaller one on top of it. You can put a glass bowl on top of this. There are many things that you can do. I have a double boiler, but when I'm making chocolate mousse, I like to use a pan like this without any edges around the inside, without the ridge that holds the double boiler on top of the bottom pan. I find it easier to stir the chocolate and keep it all the same consistency. When I use a double boiler, I usually keep hot but not boiling water on the bottom part of it. This lets me control the temperature on the top more easily and keeps it from overcooking or cooking too quickly. A chocolate mousse is a kind of custard, which means it's thickened with eggs. I'm going to get the eggs ready. Once they're ready, I will start melting the chocolate in the pan. I'll add a little bit of sugar to it. I'm using a Scharfenberger chocolate bar tonight. It's made for cooking. It's 70% cocoa mixture. So it's a little bit on the bittersweet side. I'm adding 1/3 cup of sugar to it to sweeten it up. My milk has gotten hot now, the half and half, 2 cups of it. It has small bubbles around the edge of the pan, but it is not boiling. I'm about to put my chocolate into the double boiler, which has steaming but not boiling water in it. And the top pan has been heating up. The recipe calls for 4 ounces, and I have a bar of baking chocolate here that is 9.7 ounces divided among 5 blocks for whatever reason. So sometimes you've got to do a little calculating. 4 ounces of semi-sweet or bittersweet chocolate. You can see it starting to melt already, making sure my pan isn't too hot. With chocolate mousse, when you're melting chocolate like this, it's always easier to wait a little longer and get it to melt more slowly. If you melt it too quickly though, you can change the characteristics of the chocolate. So never be in a rush to melt your chocolate when you're making a chocolate dessert. While that's finishing melting, I'm going to whisk my egg yolks so that they're smooth and well blended before I put them into the chocolate. My chocolate is completely melted. Next step, I'm going to put first the eggs and then the sugar into the chocolate, but I'm going to do that off the double boiler. When a recipe calls for having things on and off a double boiler at different times, it's probably because the item you're making is very sensitive to temperature. And that's definitely the case with a custard. Custard is thickened with eggs, and eggs, as I'm sure you're familiar, thicken as they get hot. So the trick is to make sure the eggs are cooked, but that they don't overcook and they don't cook too soon. If my chocolate was too hot right now, and I mixed the eggs in, I would end up with cooked eggs before I put the rest of the ingredients in. Likewise, if my milk were too hot and I started putting it in, which I'll do in a couple minutes, it would start cooking the chocolate right away. I'm also adding the sugar at this time. Now my chocolate is getting pretty thick. You can tell that from how it's stirring. So that's a sign that it was certainly not too hot. It could have even been a little bit hotter. So I'm going to put it back on the double boiler already. Make sure that gets steaming. Put the rest of the sugar in and get this well mixed. Before I add the hot half and half into the chocolate egg sugar mixture, I used a spoon to scrape a little bit of the sort of dried milk off the top. It forms a thin layer across the top as it cools. You want to get rid of that before you add that to your chocolate mousse. Now you add the milk a little bit at a time, stirring. As this continues to heat up, the chocolate and sugar will fully dissolve into the milk. It'll become a very even, smooth mixture. I will stir it pretty much constantly until it's thickened and finished. And I'll give you updates along the way. This is getting very close to done. You can see it's thicker than it was to start with. It is partially coating the spatula as I stir it, which would be a sign that it's thick enough. I'm going to cook it a few more minutes though. Again, I'm cooking it slowly. I'd rather go slowly with chocolate than go too quickly. Okay, based on how that looks, the amount of time and past times I make this, I'm going to call that finished. I'm going to turn that off, take it off the burner. There are a number of different ways this can be served. There are pot de creme specific dishes or bowls that one can use. One could use a small espresso cup. I'm going to use these glasses. You can also use a shot glass, although that's a little bit on the small side for dessert. I'm also going to use these for two of them. I just got these today and I think they're very pretty and elegant and make a nice way to have a chocolate mousse on Valentine's Day. So if you have a place setting or a dinner table that's going to match something like this, feel free to go ahead and be creative in what you serve your chocolate mousse in. I'm going to use a canning funnel because, as you'll see, that will let me put the chocolate mousse into this glass to serve it without getting any on the outside of it. There we have 5 cups of chocolate mousse. They need to go in the refrigerator for at least 2 to 3 hours, but they can also go in overnight, which is what I'm going to do. And tomorrow I will also be making some dipping chocolate to put on some strawberries. So I hope you'll join me for the rest of the show to see that. Hi, and welcome to part 2 of this special chocolate episode. Finished the mousse. It's been in the refrigerator all night. Today I'm going to do dipping strawberries. You want to do those as late as possible because they don't keep. In fact, they probably don't even keep 24 hours. But it's something that can be done pretty quickly a few hours before you're planning on having them. Now, some of the tricks ahead of time. Get the best strawberries that you can, a nice color, nice leaves on them, and make sure they're completely dry before you get started, before you go to dip them. I also found a couple heart-shaped shortbreads. I'll dip those last because they can leave crumbs in the chocolate, which I wouldn't want on the strawberries, but this will be something extra to add at the end of the strawberries. I've picked a very dark chocolate. I don't want something too sweet. I know I have good strawberries, and those are going to be pretty sweet already. For dipping chocolate, you can get as fancy as you want to be. There are special machines that control the temperature. You can temper your chocolate. There are people that specialize in careers on dipping chocolate. But you don't have to be. You can also take a favorite kind of chocolate bar, melt it, and dip something in it. Keep the thing that you're dipping dry. Make sure that it's not too cold ahead of time. Ideally, do your dipping chocolate when your room temperature is below 70 Fahrenheit and the humidity is below 50. That's hard to do in Florida. I'm going to do what I can. I don't think it'll be a real problem. We'll see at the end. I'm going to get started on this with the double boiler. I have hot but not boiling water on the bottom. I'm going to put this in. I'm letting this slowly melt. It's been about 5 minutes. No need to rush any of it. You know, it's like romance, right? Valentine's Day is about love and being sweet and caring and spending time with the people you care about. No need to rush any of that either. You're not trying to race through getting your chocolate melted. Shouldn't be trying to race through romance of Valentine's Day either. Take your time, enjoy it. You can make this together with the people you care about too, with your family, with your significant other. To me, cooking can be a very romantic and sensual experience. That's fully melted now. I've turned the heat down on the double boiler. I'm just going to make sure it stays melted and doesn't start getting too thick. I've tilted the top part to the side so I have a deeper layer of chocolate for dipping my strawberries. Strawberries are great in part because they come with a little handle built in on them already. I'm going to dip one in there, let it drip off a little bit, and then put it on a piece of wax paper. Let it just sit there. You can put it in the refrigerator for a little bit of time to help it set, particularly if the temperature in the house is warm. My strawberries are finished. They're cooling now and they'll be setting. I will probably put them in the refrigerator for a few minutes because the house is a little bit warm down here in Central Florida. For the rest of the dipping chocolate, you can get creative. Anything that you would use in a chocolate fondue, you can use for dipping chocolate. You can use other fruits, you can use cookies, you can use bread. I'm going to dip these two heart-shaped shortbreads right now. I figure that's a good choice for Valentine's Day. Well, that's it for the dipping chocolate. I'll let these set for a little bit. I'll join you in a few minutes for some tasting. Here we have one chocolate mousse, a couple of chocolate dipped strawberries. They've chilled in the refrigerator, the chocolate mousse overnight, the strawberries for about an hour. Chocolate mousse has set nicely. It's a nice thick texture. I hope I've been able to show you how to make a couple chocolate desserts that shouldn't take too long to make and yet are very good. I hope you have a chance to enjoy them this week or another time in the future. Thanks for joining me on Cooking with the Professor.